Sadly, for the animals and plants of Djuma, the rain has stopped, but it's a good thing for us because we can at least head out and explore now. Obviously, that's not what we wanted, but we've got no control over the rain, and the beauty is now we get to explore afterwards. We've got a herd of impala here, and they're going to be seriously happy, and also a beautiful view that's going to be very crisp and clear out to the west. I'm going to let Tebs, who's on camera with me this afternoon, do his thing. There's all the impala. They will be happy, and we can expect to see a lot of jovial behavior from all of the herbivores. Here they go, running off for joy. And we're going to catch up with them again, but what I'm going to ask Tebs to do is just to take you on a little bit of a tour of the mountains out to the west. It's going to be beautifully crisp and clear. And as he zooms in now, you'll see a few small little conical mountains, and the Drakensberg, a bigger range beyond that. Absolutely beautiful. There's still some thunder rumbling. The frogs are already calling, and the bush is coming alive. And Paul, on Twitter, you spot on. It is fascinating how the colors really begin to pop and show after a little bit of rain. I guess the leaves would have been washed clean of all the dry dust. Oh, sorry, that was Anne, not Paul. Not sure how I got that one mixed up. And also look at how full the little water or puddles are. This is a little mud wallow that's going to be utilized by animals like rhino, buffalo, warthog for wallowing in, but it's also going to be a drinking point. It's probably not going to last too long, but it'll be interesting to see how long the puddles do last. But now it means that all of the animals, especially the smaller ones like kind of leopard and lion, they're not going to have to go to main water points, which there are very few of. They're going to be able to drink out of these small puddles in the road, like just in front of us. So there's an abundance of water around now, and what that means is that we're going to probably be seeing less life around the Djuma waterhole. And let's hope that's for a long period of time, but sadly with the ferocious heat we're experiencing at the moment, it may not last too long, these little puddles. Wonderful. The rain is beginning to fall softly now, as you'll notice on the dash here and probably on me. But I don't think we're going to get anything too serious now. So we don't have to worry about racing back. To Gerard, who I think is an ex-South African watching from Saudi Arabia, and he's missing these wonderful African thunderstorms, and just to be able to sit and listen to the noises was something that he really enjoyed. And you're right, it's an awesome spectacle to behold. Now, what's interesting is that there's a whole load of birds that are all flying directly east, and it's a combination of rollers. You may just get a glimpse of them. That's a roller there. That's a European roller. But I've also seen Amur falcons, which I think they've also just arrived back in the area. I'm not sure how many Amur falcons you may have seen, but it's as if they're chasing the rain. I've seen a fairly constant flow of birds flying out to the east, so let's keep an eye on that. And again, like I said, there are Amur falcons amongst them. It's a small raptor, almost the size of a roller, that feeds predominantly on insects. And I know there weren't any about before I went on leave, so just like the Carmine beetle that Jamie found this morning, there's a strong chance that these Amurs have come in while I was gone.
after an hour, 1 mile station.
So I'm having some trouble with my radio. But Curious One would like to know if there's going to have been enough rain to fill up some of the water holes. Let's go and check, Curious One. We're not too far from the treehouse water hole, so we'll head directly there. There may be a very, very slight puddle, but nothing too serious. With those water holes, there's a lot of cracks that will soak up the water that falls initially. So I'm not expecting great things with the water holes, but let's go and have a look. I'm hoping I'm going to be able to see some more birds flying out to the east, but that trend seems to have stopped. It'll be interesting to know why different species were all heading in that direction. Not too sure what it could be. Anyway, we're going to send you across to Jamie. I'm not too sure where she's exploring at the moment, but you can get a quick update from her, and I'll let you know when I get to the treehouse waterhole.
Well, that was short but sweet and really needed. I'm glad we had that little downpour. And apparently it's the beginning of a front, so we might even be seeing more rain over the next few days. How terribly, terribly exciting. Still sort of dripping on us in a half-hearted manner. And I think Scott and I both had the same idea because we nearly bumped into each other on the road. I just happened to turn off slightly sooner. But we all both travelled towards the lighter patch of sky. And that was the most extraordinary storm, as I'm sure Scott has mentioned. Wind howling, rain torrenting down. It was absolutely magical and exactly what we needed. We need more of it, of course. Just coming round Treehouse Dam. There's a bit of a puddle. Go. And those holes that we've seen that were dug out by the elephants. And you can see the rain is still falling. And let me, while we look at that lovely sight, let me just answer Scott quickly on the radio. Standing by.
Jamie, just to let you know, I'll check those down to Philemon's Cutland. I'm going to check Treehouse Dam now.
Okay, copy that, Scotty. I'm at Treehouse now. I'm going to work my way sort of southeast from here. Sorry, guys. Just coordinating with Scott.
Okay, well then I won't go to Treehouse Dam. I'll head back up to the final plans.
Copy. Sorry, Scott. Hijacked his route a little bit. Oopsie daisy. Unintentional, I assure you. Right, where was I? So we've had a little bit of rain, but we definitely need more to start filling up the dams and the underground water that we need. And Cat Curly, you might have picked up on the fact that the birds are all chirping and chirping and feeling thoroughly happy and singing their way through, and you've suggested that they're happy about the rain too. I wouldn't be surprised. For them it means a bonanza of insects at the very least. It also brought quite a nice relief from the temperature this afternoon. It got very hot at one stage. So this has been a lovely temporary break from the heat and the drought that we've been experiencing. I say that though, I made a very silly decision and I put a jacket on. So there's some rather damp looking impala over there while I remove a layer, and two boys reveling in the joy of the afternoon. High spirits. Oh, you can hear the rumbles of the thunder in the distance. Well, there you go. That answers Monique in London's question as we watch our little oh, I nearly got their name wrong. Watch the impala sparring with each other. Look at them go. High spirits and youthful hijinks. Monique, that sort of answers your question. So you were saying that in the area you used to live in, you'd love the way that the thunderstorms would bring down the temperature. And it's absolutely the same here when you get that. Look at them go. Well, I think we have quite a clear victor there. You guys going to carry on? No. Stop now. Having a bit of a groom. Can you hear all of the frogs that have come out all of a sudden? Sorry, Monique, I was in mid-sentence to say that, yes, it's exactly the same effect here. And it's dropped the temperature really nicely. Not quite, apparently, to jacket-wearing level, which I thought it might have. I went out very wrapped up nice and cozy, and really that wasn't quite necessary. But yes, it certainly drops the temperature down. And that's the sort of typical summer impression that we get. It's this magical, usually, not in this, it hasn't been like that this year, but usually what happens is you get these boiling hot summer days, but with a very electric feel, and you just know that at some point in the night or in the late afternoon it's going to be broken by the rumbling and crashing and banging of a thunderstorm. And it's one of the things that I miss the most when I lived away from South Africa, and it's something that I've reveled in since returning over the last few years. This year has been a little bit of disappointment in that respect. I'm sure all of the Wild Earth staff agree with me. We watch the storms approaching, and then we watch with dismay as they sort of blow to either the north or to the west of us. So it's been such a treat to have had this pleasure this afternoon. And I'm sort of looking in the direction I'm going and wondering whether I've made a terrible, terrible error of choice in my route plan. Scott got out before me, so he got to choose to go west. I'm just looking at the cloud banks and picturing being soused. You may have to do fairly small loops for a while. You can see how dark the sky is this way. Uh-oh. Oopsie daisy. Might need to give the storm front a bit more time to move that way. And Raisa, we were just listening to the frogs. I'm glad you're as happy as we are about the rains, and Raisa would like us to find some amphibians to show her as she's watching in Finland. With pleasure. I'll be keeping an eye out. Already the frogs are calling. I've heard some cassinas and some foam nest frogs already out and about. And you'll probably find lots of little bushveld rain frogs. They're usually the first to make an appearance with their grumpy, squat little bodies. Let's have a look around and see if we can find them. I bet you actually, now that I've just driven past that impala herd, I wouldn't be surprised if that's where the impala with the injured eye and the one horn is. He usually lives around this junction, but he's obviously moved just... Oh no, hold on. I think he's there. Probably in here somewhere. Just do a double check. I always stop around here now to look for him. Nicknamed him Two-Face, or Harvey. Is that him there? No, that impala's definitely got two horns. Might be somewhere at the back. So for new viewers who are absolutely clueless as to what I'm talking about, there's an impala here with one horn. He's broken off his left horn, and some point during the excessive hormone increase that happens when the impala ewes go into estrus, or sorry, when they go into labor, the impala rams start to fight each other. And this poor impala, because he only had one horn, I suspect he incurred a terrible injury to his left eye, and his eye is almost, I mean, it's completely damaged. It will never function again. He's blind in that eye, and we've been watching it healing over the last few weeks. He's looking much better, but I don't know where he's disappeared off to. It would be very kind of him to show his face. It's amazing though, because you see the left side of him, and he looks like a completely normal impala, and then he turns and he's got a missing horn and a damaged eye. And I think he's perfectly, I mean, he'll be absolutely fine. They're far more reliant on their sense of smell anyway, their sense of smell and their hearing. And he's got one functional eye, so I think he'll be okay. Aw. It disappointed me. He's usually here. This is his impala herd. Hey, you. I'm sure he's here somewhere, but I can't find him. So we're looking at the most numerous antelope species that's here. New Bailey, who I suspect is a new viewer, welcome to the Sunset Safari. We go out live twice a day, every day. So young
So it appears Jamie's just lost her signal for whatever the reason may be. That's why you rushed across back onto our vehicle. No major updates. I did a U-turn when I realized Jamie was at Treehouse Dam ahead of me, but glad you got to see that sooner than expected. And we'll leave her now on focusing to try and find Harvey as we try and find Karula, the female leopard whose tracks we had in this general area about half a mile behind us, heading towards where we are now this morning. Obviously all those tracks have been washed away now from the rain, so it's a clean slate. And shame. Young Bailey, I know Jamie was halfway through answering your question, well not even halfway through, I think she was just starting it, when she lost her signal. And young Bailey would like to know if there's any dangerous animals in this area. Yes, most certainly the leopard that I've just mentioned is one of them. We also get lion, hippo, rhino, Cape buffalo. What am I missing? Those are the most dangerous of the animals we get here. Cheetah and wild dog are two predators that aren't really dangerous to us as humans. Of course they're dangerous to the antelope that run around here. And interestingly enough, I think the most dangerous three animals that we get here in the Sabi Sands are probably all vegetarians. They're all herbivores. The elephant, the buffalo, and the hippo are possibly what I think the three most dangerous animals in this area. The big cats have the potential to be dangerous, but thankfully they don't see and realize their power and speed and agility and how much better it is than ours. And often our brain power can outcompete their strength and speed by us kind of standing our ground and shouting and screaming. It makes animals like lion and leopard think twice about attacking us. And it's something that they seldom want to do. Most animals, even down to animals like snakes, will try and avoid human interactions at all costs, and it's just when you push that boundary too far, young Bailey, that they tend to start fighting for themselves and standing up for themselves. So on this open vehicle, even though we may appear vulnerable, we aren't very vulnerable as long as we read into the signs of the animals, and when they warn us not to come any closer and we listen to them, it tends to work out just fine like rats. Beautiful dark clouds that we're heading up towards. There's a few bolts of lightning being emitted from them. Now, I know Raisa mentioned that he's hoping on seeing some amphibians after this rain. Sorry, she. And Raisa, I think there is a strong chance that there will be some African bullfrogs out looking for an easy meal later, so that's my guess. And there's also a good chance that some reptiles will be moving around. I saw a tortoise drinking. Oh, there's one just in front of us. I saw a tortoise drinking out of a puddle as we headed out, and there's also a chance we will see some snakes ground. This one's trying to get moisture from the ground. Look at this, right in front of us. It's literally licking the road. I wish there was a puddle closer by for you. Literally, the other tortoise was right in the middle of it. But this one's going to not have to travel too far. There's one or two puddles that we've just driven through behind us. And well done, Di, on forecasting that there's going to be some critters on the road. Here we have one right in front of us, so we're going to have to keep a close eye and make sure we don't crush any as we're searching for other animals. This is incredible. You may even just be able to see its little tongue sticking out. Tasty wet sand. Very nice. Nice just to stop and watch it and also listen to all the sounds around us. There's a lot of frogs already calling, and they're going to be hard to find unless they are the African bullfrogs or the bushveld rain frogs. Those also kind of present themselves out on the roads. Others tend to conceal themselves, but there's already a loud chorus of frogs competing for mates, trying to make the most of this short window period. Good, well, we're going to leave this tortoise before it gets too close to us and get out of its way. It'll probably temporarily duck into its shell and then continue as if we weren't even here. Other predictions just come through from Curious One, suggesting that this rain may bring out some termites. And you're right, Curious One, it could very well bring out some termites. It's quite interesting. There's a tiny little terrapin in this puddle on our left here. We try to direct Tebs to it. It's somewhere there. There, you can see a little bit of movement. I think it's just ducked under the water. But what's fascinating is that this little wallow was completely dry, and this terrapin's obviously been sitting very patiently in the hope that there will be some moisture at some point, and it's got lucky. I'm not sure how long it would last. Oh, it's just popped up, but it's moving too quickly for me to see. It looks like it's trying to forage for some food and little snacks on insects. It's probably very hungry after lying dormant for quite some time. But sadly, I've lost track of where... Oh, here it is here, Tebs on the left. You can see it in this little gap here. I think it's somewhere there. Oh, yeah, spot on. Just if you zoom straight in there, you'll get him. Oh, just in time. So, good news for that terrapin. Now, Curious One, I'm not sure if any flying ants or reproductive termites, which is a better word. I use the incorrect terminology, as do many people, calling them flying ants. They are termites. And there is a chance, but can't guarantee that it will happen. They usually come out during the first rains of summer. Now, obviously, because it is a drought, we haven't had many rains, or much rain. So there may still be a few stragglers, a few reproductive termites that are going to emerge, but I fear that it just may be a little bit too late in the season. Let's wait and see. Good possibility though. Shannon in Ohio, and you're would like to know, what do we see most after the rain? So as I was just discussing with Curious One, it depends on the time of the year. The initial rains of summer often bring a massive influx of insects, especially the reproductive termites, but insects across the board. And even now, I'm sure that there is going to be an influx of various insects. There may be little stink bugs or one of many, many hundreds of different types of insects that we get here. But it's interesting how they come in kind of waves, and each different rainfall will present you with different insects. So it'll be interesting to see what emerges after this rain. But it's also a good time to see snakes. They like to move around after they've often been wet, wherever they may have been lying around and digesting a meal or keeping warm. Now they're going to head out in search of a dry area. Other than that, I can't think of anything that really comes to mind in terms of a massive influx of animals that we'll see, other than the ones that we kind of see on a daily basis to varying degrees. Okay, well, it seems like Jamie's signal has finally recovered. She's having a bit of signal issues on her vehicle today, but for now it's good, and we're going to send you back to her for a quick update.
As we went live there, the fly flew perfectly up my left nostril. Here we go. So, to carry on with Scott's conversation about what to what to expect with the new rain is the increase in insect activity. I'm quite surprised the flies are out already, but we do seem to have a particular brand of stubborn fly that inhabits Djuma, and they apparently quite like to fly up my nose. This is the third or fourth time it's happened to me whilst live. I was going with a different conversation topic before that happened though. Awesome. Okay, so Bev's question has actually reminded me of what I was going to say, and that's the fact that it smells absolutely phenomenal, Bev. So Bev is saying that she wishes she was out on drive, just the smell of the rain, the feel of the bush after a moment like this. Still lucky. Sorry, Bev, I'll be with you in a moment. It is one of the best times to be out and about, especially since it comes as such a relief. Well done, Liam. Thank you. Hello, boy. Those spear-like little daggers that are his horns. He's actually got quite long horns. Impressive, mature male steenbok. And for new viewers, to give you a perspective of size of that little creature, it is one of the smallest antelope species that we see out here. It is just under my knee height, actually quite considerably under my knee height at the shoulder. They are tiny, shy little creatures that like to rely on their cryptic coloration to disappear into the vegetation. And if you surprise them, or if you give them a shock, they might dash away a couple of meters and then stop and stare at you and try and figure out whether or not you've seen them. And as Liam goes a bit wider on the steenbok, you can see how incredibly tiny it actually is, which as always makes Liam's incredible spotting a special gift to us presenters. And while I'm here, and since I was in the process of chatting to Bev, this is actually a really nice view to look out over the bushveld. Bev, it is stunning out here. As a South African, I'm sure that you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I'm sure you visited the bushveld before at this time of year. And the smell is petrichor, is the word we discussed a couple of days ago when it rained on Drive, the smell of the earth after rain. And for viewers that have not been in this particular area before, there is a unique smell to the African earth after rain, and particularly because we know that these lands are so thirsty at the moment. What a treat. It's amazing how you take something, or you can take something like rain for granted. I'm sure for the animals, they must be feeling a distinct feeling of relief, especially when the green shoots start to come through and they've got something fresher to nibble on. Wonderful thing as well about this particular weather is that very often the big cats come out to play. They come out to wander around and remark where they've laid down scent marks since it's been washed away by the rain. It's also nice and cool, so they don't feel like they're overheating. They don't feel like they have to lie down and rest in the shade. Starting to drizzle on us here. And bravo, Viak. Yes, the rain has rejuvenated all creatures, great and small, myself and Viam and Scott and Tebs included. And speaking of Scott and Tebs, I think it's time to head over there and see what they've been up to.
Well, for those of you who were on the sunrise safari, this may be a familiar scene. Oh! That was awesome! He actually didn't want to get left behind, but its mother is being pursued by a big male. And Jamie was actually with these animals this morning. This is the kind of joy that herbivores show after the rain. Sorry, I'm all over the show, but that little jump of joy from that calf is definitely because of the rain, I feel at least. Let's reposition and try and get you a better view of the mother of that calf and the male who's chasing after her. Should work for a short moment in time. The female is the one on the left in front, and there's a big male who obviously knows she's coming into season. She's obviously not quite there yet, but he definitely feels it's worth hanging around until she gives in. I'm surprised he's actually let her get that far away from him, to be honest. And he should pop out from behind a thick bush. But the calf's moving in the same direction as well, so that's good. And let's see if it doesn't give us another little performance as it runs closer to its mother. The big male's just started moving and he should pop into screen shortly. There we go. Look at that. Here we go. Look at how fast it is. That was awesome. Let's creep up again. We may get one more little trot before they disappear into some thicker bush. There we go. This is going to be awesome. The male's finally catching up to the female now. And you can see how he's licking his lips and his nostrils. The smell must be driving him crazy of her coming into season, and what will often happen is that female giraffe will often actually urinate over the nostrils of a male who's testing her. But he's going straight for some tasty, moist acacia leaves. It's all happening here, not easy for Tibbs. The calf looked like it was possibly going to do another little trot for us. Let's see if it doesn't give us one more little display of its speed. No, it seems to have calmed down. Let's do one little loop ahead though, get a better angle of the adults feeding. Remarkable the contrast in color between the male and the female. And Jamie's just mentioned that she gives this male giraffe a lot of persistence, or sorry, gives it a lot of credit for his persistence. And you're right, Jamie. Hopefully the female will give in at some points. Beautiful. A romantic meal for two, with the calf kind of looking on awkwardly in the background. Not only can you compare the size of the male and the female, but this is a good opportunity to compare those horn-like structures, the ossicones. And the males are about twice as thick and also lack the tuft of hair that the females possess. Yay! I've just had an awesome update, and a good friend of mine, Nikki Sherman, who we were with just a few days ago in Cape Town, is watching for the first time. And I guess Liam, you're also probably there. That's Nikki's boyfriend. Good to know you guys are watching. And Nikki, I'm happy to hear that you're enjoying this cute little giraffe. Thanks for letting us know. What a bonus. And I was just telling everyone this morning, Nikki and Liam, that I was doing my bit for Safari Live marketing, and urge other viewers to tell as many people as possible, and that way hopefully we'll be able to take you on safari not only here in the Sabi Sands but in multiple destinations all around Africa and the world. So that's the goal, and we just need to keep spreading the word. For now though, we're gonna wish this big giraffe bull some luck with his lady and his quests. There he goes, licking his lips again. Young Bailey, I'm very happy to hear that you want to make your way out here on safari at some point, and I would strongly urge you to do everything possible to make that happen. And young Bailey's also interested to know if a giraffe fight has ever been captured on a live safari. Not with us, which probably means not with anyone else. I'm just going to reposition quickly. I'm not leaving Tibbs with a good angle to work with here. And no, I don't think that it would have been captured before, so we're going to have to try and make that happen for you, young Bailey, to capture a giraffe fight. It's not something that happens very often, and the few giraffe fights that I have seen haven't been hugely ferocious and aggressive. But it's important to understand that they can actually fight to the point that they could knock one another out, completely concuss their opponents, leaving them sleeping in a daze on the floor, or they could actually very badly injure their legs. There's a few different techniques, not dissimilar to human boxers. You can either go for headshots, which is kind of the jackpot, or you can go for multiple body shots to try and weaken your opponents and hurt their body. That will cause them to lower their guard, and then you can deliver a kind of headshots. And the giraffe are no different. Sometimes they'll be flinging those ossicones, those little stumpy structures on their heads, straight into the legs of one another, not necessarily always going for one another's heads. And who knows, young Bailey, maybe another big male will come onto the scene in the next few moments and give this male a run for his money. It's not uncommon that several males will be trailing one female coming into season. Maybe this guy's just lucky that others haven't caught wind of her, or maybe he's already chased others off. Hello to Monique in London, and you'd like to know how long will a giraffe calf stay with its mother. I'm not sure of the exact details with regards to that, Monique, but I will hazard a guess at anywhere between 2.5 to 3 years. So even though they may not be dependent entirely on the milk of their mother for that long, they will stay within the herd for up to that period of time. And it's not uncommon to see a mother with 2 calves, and well, you see that one's being naughty. Obviously the fact that she's coming into season now is a sign to us that this calf is too big to be drinking milk, and that's why Mom's pacing off like that, not even giving her calf the time of day. But yeah, Monique, anywhere between 2.5 and 3 years, I think, would be the average age that a giraffe would spend with its mother. Thereafter, females may decide to stay on with their mothers, and young males will probably decide to move off and join a small bachelor herd and go learn the ways of the wild before trying to look for some females of their own. But they don't form family herds, so males will come and go only when opportunities like this arise, when there's a mating opportunity. She is certainly playing hard to get there. Oh, she's going to take a drink out of this tiny little puddle. Let's try and get you a better view. Oh, look at that! Get ready for more screenshots. I'm just really desperate to try and get us a better view. No luck. Maybe the male will follow suit though. Come on. Oh, the calf's going to go in for us. Just as good. No, decided against it at the last minute. All these giraffes are playing hard to get. Even the young calf. Wasn't it beautiful though, the way it flicked its head up, the female, and that stream of water went flying into the air? Some of you may have managed to capture a screenshot there, and if you did, well done. Now the calf's giving its mother a bit more of a hard time. Probably hoping for some milk. What I'm going to try and do is actually reposition the vehicle while Tebs gives the screen a bit of a wipe and get the sun in our favor, because we're busy shooting directly into very white light, making it difficult for Tebs to provide you with the shots that you would desire. Here we go. Look at that, what a wonderful scene. Dark, dark clouds out to the north. And if we're lucky, they'll bring some more rain to Djuma, because the small downpour that we just got is literally a teaser compared to what we need. But we'll take whatever we can get. The oxpeckers are enjoying grooming themselves after their compulsory shower that they would have just taken, along with all the other animals here. There's nowhere to really seek refuge. There's no caves or outcrops for any of the smaller animals. Obviously animals like giraffe would have a hard time anyway. And being under a tree is certainly not going to help greatly, because it was literally raining horizontally at one point, with the strong winds that were gusting through. Hey, Brian in Philadelphia. Happy to see you so active on the questions. And it's an interesting story, everyone. Before I answer Brian's question, when we we first met him when he came out to Arathusa sometime last year, early last year. We asked him if he ever chats to us and sends through questions, and he said that he had yet to send through one question. So we laid down the law, and slowly Brian is getting into it. And the question he's just asked is a very good one, and that is whether or not the giraffe will use the Jacobson's organ or the vomeronasal organ, which is a scent organ, in order to process smells. And a lot of the mammals here will do that. The lions, the impala, buffalo, rhino, just about all the mammals possess that Jacobson's organ, and so too do the giraffe. I can't for some reason though remember seeing them curl their lip up, which is the technique used by most mammals to better activate that organ, and it basically allows them to better process the smell, and it's often in their upper palates where that funny little organ's found. So Brian, I am fairly convinced that they will use it, but I just can't for the life of me remember seeing them do it, seeing them curl up their lips. So maybe, look at this female giving the male a run around, literally. But for some reason I can't remember. Let's watch closely here. It looked like, oh, she's going to have another drink now. Let's try and get some screenshots from here as she flicks her head up. I don't want to risk moving in case it's spooks her. Is that, oh, just a quick one, not as impressive as the previous one, but let's watch very closely. There's a strong chance if we spend long enough here, he is going to try and smell the rear end of his lady-to-be. As I said earlier, there's a strong chance she will urinate as he does that, so that he can better process the smell, and that way we'll be able to have a closer look. Brian. Hello to Leanne, who's watching in the Netherlands, and we'd like to know if female giraffe live in groups or herds, and yes, they typically do. So it's interesting that this one is on her own. In some areas of Africa, up in Kenya and Tanzania, I remember seeing large herds of giraffe, up to 20 strong. But here in the Sabi Sands, a large herd of giraffe would be kind of 4 or 5 or 6. And yes, usually you see them in small herds, but there's no strict rules. Oh, the sun's coming out. This is going to be awesome, especially with the very dark clouds in the background. You don't get contrast like this every day. And what perfect subjects to be enjoying it with. And as Teb zooms out, you're going to get a great idea of how drastic this contrast is between the dark clouds and the bright green guarri bushes. They're a hardy plant, and that's why the droughts had little effect on them. They'll be green from winter through summer, and even now during the drought they're putting up a good fight. Just going to creep forward a little bit more, I think. Two interconnected questions. One from Pamela, asking if giraffe are scared of these thunderstorms that we have. And I guess it'll depend on the individual, Pamela. Kind of just like some of your domestic dogs and cats. Some will be afraid of loud noises and others won't. And I guess giraffe are probably similar. But because most of them would have grown up from a young age witnessing their parents' behavior. Oh, hello. I don't think that they're going to be hugely concerned by it. And then another question from Ray asking if giraffe are ever harmed in these electrical thunderstorms. And yes, Ray, I have heard stories of giraffe being struck by lightning. And obviously because of their height, they are going to be better lightning conductors than any other animals on the African plains. But it's not something that I've ever witnessed or seen, and I've only heard tales thereof, but it's certainly plausible. And I guess something important to remember is that even if they seek refuge under trees, that's the worst place you want to be in a lightning storm. You don't want to go under a tree. So, not many places for them to go. Hello Gracie, who's just 8 years old, and I'm glad you've asked this question because you would like to know, oh, there goes the baby running down the road. Gracie wants to know, why is it that this mother and this big bull are ignoring the young calf? And Gracie, I don't think they're doing it to be horrible. I think they're just having to try and sort out discussion that they're busy having. So mom and dad are busy making plans maybe about the future of the youngster and which school to send it to or which university to send it to. But they are definitely having a conversation. Even now you can see mom and dad on the right there. They are very focused, and even though they're eating, I think they're trying to plan the youngster's future. And you can see the youngster probably does need to go to school. It's running around wildly, and it's also trying to drink mom's milk, and I think it's too old to be still drinking mom's milk, so maybe that's also what they're discussing, what plans they can have to stop it misbehaving. Well observed, Gracie, aged 8, and good to know that you're watching. I hope you are well, and thank you very much for that very, very good question you've just sent through. Let's see what the youngster does now. I think it may try and take a drink out of this little puddle in the road. It seems to be looking at it. Come on. What have you seen there, little giraffe, that's captivated you? Italian seems to think that Big Daddy Giraffe isn't eating as much as we think he is, and he may be keeping one eye on his lady. So it's all just a bit of an act, according to Natalian, and I think you could be right. Here we go. Come on, come on, go for it. Yay, it's doing it. Get ready for screenshots. This is going to be wonderful. Get ready for it to flick its head up. There we go. Just a little miniature flick. Not as impressive as its mom's. Oh. And this is just what I spoke about earlier. The animals, big and small, won't need to travel long distances, at least temporarily, in search of water, and they'll be able to make do with all these little puddles in the road. Okay, well, we're going to send you across to Jamie for a quick update, and I think I'm going to leave this happy family and head off back into the general area where I had some tracks of Karula, a female leopard, this morning, in the hope that we'll be able to find her hiding somewhere, maybe up on a termite mound, maybe drying up in a marula tree. Anyway, time will tell, and we're going to send you across to Jamie now.
I have a bit of a game for you that I think we're going to play this afternoon. It's called Guess the Antelope Leg. So you don't, I mean, the thing is we can't really sit and watch antelope legs for the next 5 minutes. So you've got a sort of a split second that you can play it just with yourself as to which antelope you think you are seeing the legs of. And as it happens at the moment, it's mostly what we can see of this particular antelope. So any guesses? Any guesses? Okay, you've got about, I think I've got to put a time limit on this, so we've got 10 seconds to guess. Oh, and there's a face. I didn't think that sort of part of the quiz through. The fact that every now and again they dip their heads down to graze on the new green shoots. So there you go, your answer for that particular antelope was Inyala. It's actually quite a tricky game. You'd be surprised, and the reason I know that it's tricky is because I used to examine Panthera camera trap pictures. So there were 100 camera traps up at the reserve that I used to work at, which means we sifted through somewhere in the region of about 30,000 photographs that were taken by the camera trap. And a camera trap, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a motion sensor camera. And we had to sort every single picture that we went through. And I must admit, I say we, most of it was done by my friend Emma. But that included, and the thing is, those camera traps were set up for leopard research purposes. So they were set up quite low down in terms of height, just to be able to get the spot patterns of the leopards concerned, which meant when something like a nyala wandered through and all you got were legs, you had to be able to figure out what it is. So a fun game for all of you to play. I'm going to try it's difficult for the wildebeest, but if possible, every antelope species that I see, I'm not going to tell you what it is for the first 10 seconds. We'll try and see if we can do a leg shot. Hello, little one. Look at the tiny horns coming through. This little boy is probably only about a year old. And there you go. So a lot of you were suggesting that it was an impala. You guys are so quick. I'm very impressed. And it does, their legs do look like an impala. It's part of the reason I want to play this quiz with some of the regular viewers. It's fun to play. You find yourself so familiar. Maybe a leg quiz is slightly tricky. Depending on what kind of visual we have of the antelope species, we'll do, for example, a tail, or I don't know. Okay, legs and tail. Maybe side, I don't know. We'll figure this out as we go along, because I think it might be quite a good game to play. Well done, Teresa, and a couple of others for guessing Inyala as quickly as you did. I'm super impressed at the speed and accuracy of your antelope knowledge. Could be tricky though. We'll see how this works. I must admit, I didn't entirely think this entire process through, so we'll see how it plays out in practice. Interesting aside for those of you, and I know there are a few of you considering careers as safari guides, or maybe just considering going and driving off-road and on 4x4 and so on like that. Just before we went live, I had my hand dangling outside of the car, and it turns out that if you do that, you drive over a stick that's got a slight slant to it, it's going to shoot up and smack you in the hand. So I got to wrap across the knuckles for that particular. I wouldn't say that I'm grievously injured, and I'm not broken, but it did come as rather a nasty surprise. I'm guessing that little accident that wrapped me on the knuckles and will probably leave me with a minor bruise if I'm lucky, despite all of my whimpering and rather pathetic response to it. James Francis, you were wondering if there's a speed limit on the reserve roads. Now generally when I'm driving along like this, I drive at a fairly sedate pace. I think I'm probably one of the slowest drivers out of all of the presenters. I quite like having the opportunity to really examine my surroundings, particularly since you never know when there might be a leopard well camouflaged under the bushes. Do you think we can pull this off, Wildy? If we go from the ground up, maybe. Let's give it a go. Sorry guys, part of our antelope leg quiz. So this is not Wildy's usual standard of camera work, but there you go, wandering off. Oh, the head gave it away. You have to be quick. You have to be quick before the antelope reveals itself, particularly with these guys. Well, obviously they've given themselves away as impala, But good identifying feature is the black scent glands on the back of the ankles, although you might have noticed with the Inyala that they also have similar black patches, but they're on the front feet as well as the back feet. And in Impala, those black patches are only on the back side of the leg, on the back legs. Also playing hard to get, as it happens. They've all disappeared off. I hope you're all really enjoying this game, because poor old VM has to put up with it and go from the ground up, film from the ground up. Luckily our cameramen are so exceptionally tolerant of our shenanigans. So James Francis, sorry, back to the question about the speed limit. Generally reserves, private reserves like this, and of course Kruger itself, do have enforced speed limits. That doesn't mean that people don't break them. In Kruger, it is one of the things that is very strictly enforced. There's lots of speed cameras. Unfortunately, there's always certain people or certain members that do speed, and therefore there are the occasional cases of roadkill, which is always very, very sad. My experience with reserves, I'm actually not sure what the Sabi Sands speed limit is, but I imagine it's somewhere around 40 kilometers an hour, and that's only on the main access roads, which is, what is that in miles? It's just under 20 miles per hour if you're watching from that part of the world. For the most part, especially on private reserves, people are very, very careful about and very aware of the possibilities of, and it's not just tortoises, James, it's also things like frogs and millipedes and little animals that don't always get noticed, but guides in this kind of area tend to be very sensitive about that sort of thing. I will say that I've done a few quick swerves and a few sudden braking moments in my time as a guide. Wonderful question that's come through. So from Colleen Spencer, you wanted me to say a big hello to Al Waltz. Hello. Now apparently Al Waltz is 85 years old and watches the safari every single day, which is wonderful. Oops, sorry, 84 years old and watches the safari every day. I stand corrected. Well, it's wonderful, and welcome to our sunset safari. And Colleen, you wanted to know something else as well. It's just gone straight on in my head and been distracted. Oh yes, I remember. So we spoke about the speed limit. Sorry, Colleen. My head's all over the place. It's the rain. It's the weather. It's the weather. It's made me lose my marbles completely this afternoon. Colleen, in terms of how many miles we cover in one drive, we try and think about it. I used to measure the drives that I did in my old job, just because it was part of our research purposes and we had to record it for every drive. And it was usually, but we used to do 6-hour drives, so much longer drives. It was usually around, I would say we traveled about 35 kilometers, which is, hello tree, which is about, that's 35 kilometers. It's about 16 miles, but that's a very unusual case, and that was in a research facility that covered huge distances. So within our live safaris themselves, I would guess that we maybe cover a maximum of about 10 miles per drive. I would say is probably roughly what we do. Depends, of course, on the sighting that you get. So if you get a really, really nice sighting with Karula and she's completely static, then obviously we don't travel as far. But I mean, I assume you mean in the kind of average drive. Sorry, I don't know how this is gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This isn't going to work at all. Bit of silver cluster leaf there to the base. It's okay, there's no thorns. Oh, no. no. This is not going to work. Oh well. I hope you all enjoyed that. Liam enjoyed it. I imagine that the ladies in FC must be absolutely paralytic at this point. Oh, that is very funny. Okay, I'm gonna try and contain the giggles. Oh god, that was so funny. Okay, deep breaths. VM, did you enjoy that?
A lot.
Oh, that was hilarious. Okay, I'm gonna try not to giggle anymore. Oh, the things I do. Gracie, in answer to your question after that very, very relevant moment and that spectacular show of dignity and gracefulness, Gracie would like to know if all of the fallen trees God speak. Okay, Gracie would like to know Gracie wants to know if all of the fallen trees that we drive past on Drive are from elephants. Gracie, yes, they absolutely are. The elephants tend to reshape the landscape a little bit and leave booby traps in the road. And the reason that I actually got out to move that particular silver cluster leaf tree was because what happens is people ignore them and they drive around and eventually they start to form a new road, which is actually not that good for the environment. So I figured I'd sort of give it a try, see if I could pull it off the road. I was not expecting the branch to break on me. That was a cruel and unusual booby trap that was laid for poor old Jamie to go and move out of the road. And while I recover myself, oh, hold on, there's Buffalo. Hello, boys. Oh, shame, he's actually blind in his left eye, this gentleman. And they are going to wander off behind the trees, and I think perhaps I need a moment to recover both myself and my dignity. And while we do that, let's head over to Scott, who has a raptor to show you.
Here's some more European rollers all heading off to the east. And there was another flock before this one headed over. And for those of you who weren't with us earlier on, you wouldn't have seen this, but there goes some more. And I don't know what could be causing it. We saw it early on Drive, rollers, both lilac-breasted European and even Amur falcons, flying directly to the east, all on exactly the same trajectory. And here they keep coming. Here's a few more that are going to be tricky for Tebs to find. I don't know where they've just ducked below the horizon, possibly, but there's almost a constant stream of them heading out. Here's another one up there. Anyway, it's just this fascinating behavior that's kind of inexplicable. At least I can't come up with a decent explanation. One thing that came to mind is that maybe there was a fire that was started from the electrical storm out to the east, and a lot of birds will flock towards fires to feed on the insects that are being barbecued for them. Anyway, we're going to have to keep our finger on the pulse there, and in the meantime, we can stop and show you the bird that we initially stopped for. It's a pale form of the Wahlberg's eagle. And you can see it's still a little bit damp from the earlier deluge. It's in all likelihood the individual that has a pair on a road that's named after their nest, called Wahlberg's Nest Road. And and both of them are pale form. They can also be a dark chocolate brown color. But what's characteristic is that tiny little crest or tuft on the top of their head, as well as their size. Not easy to see from this angle. And you might be able to hear some grr, 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 grr behind us. Those are some crested francolins, which are alarm calling due to the presence of this Wahlberg's eagle. And it wasn't too long before I headed out on leave that I actually saw Wahlberg's eagle feeding on a young francolin. An adult francolin will be a little bit large a prey for this eagle, but the chicks, which this francolin that's alarm calling us behind us probably has, are certainly going to be under threat. And that's why there's that constant chattering there, and that's what caused me to look up into the trees. It's a good indicator of how, by listening to alarm calls of the various animals here, they can help us to detect predators, not only lion and leopard, but also the smaller predators like birds of prey and snakes. Good. Well, interestingly enough, the rollers have stopped streaming. Literally, as we went across onto the Wahlberg's eagle, they stopped, and no more were coming from the west, but maybe they're kind of coming in waves. It's just bizarre.